We have drums and we have chords, so in this video we are going to focus on the bass. Personally, I use very subtle basses with lo-fi music. I don't want listener to pay too much attention to the bass line, but if you take it away, you'll hear that something's missing. So, let's get started. I will play the end result first. I will start by creating a new contact instance. I'm gonna create a new folder for this track to keep the project tidy. Let's copy these bass notes from piano chords and use them as a starting point. I will change the velocity to 100. In my opinion, the most important thing with the bass sound is that it has to work well together with your kick. So I will now solo my piano, bass and kick and try different sounds and listen what works best. I actually decided to use this basic electric bass from Lofi Pt.3. Okay, when we created our chord progression, we used C major scale. Now we need to transpose our chords and bass to the key that suits better for this bass note progression. Because if our bass note goes too low, it's hard to hear. If it goes too high, it doesn't sound bass anymore. We need to find kind of a sweet spot for this sound so it doesn't go too low or too high. I think this low C might be a little bit too low. So I think that the lowest note that I want to use is this D1. I think I'm gonna try to change our key to A major. So I will now transpose my chords to the same key. I think this D major works a little bit better. Before we make this bass line more complex, I like to do a little bit of processing. First, I'll add EQ. I have a habit of always adding a low cut, even for the kick and bass. I will cut everything below 20 Hz or so. You wouldn't hear it anyways, so might as well get rid of it. I will now listen to the sound in context and maybe shape it a little bit. Next, I will add compressor to make the volume more even. I will do the same thing that I did with my piano. 4:1 ratio, disable makeup gain, Then adjust attack and release to my taste. After that, I'll change the threshold and aim for 3 to 4 dB gain reduction. This is again very subtle, but it helps to make our bass more consistent. I also often add a little bit of saturation to my bass. For that, I'm gonna try how Cymatics Origin sounds. Saturation reduces peaks and creates more harmonics, making bass easier to hear through the mix. I'm gonna first make the factory reset. I might also try to add a little bit of bitrate reduction to make this more lo-fi. This is again a very subtle difference, but I think it helps in the long run. And finally, we are going to add sidechaining. So add compressor, activate sidechain, select kick as trigger. Once again, I'm going to go with 4:1 ratio, then use fast attack and quite fast release and disable makeup gain. I will solo my kick and bass and adjust threshold to my taste. Okay, now we have a straight bass line that sounds good. I will now duplicate this MIDI so I can create more variations of it. One really easy way to make this more interesting is to re-trigger bass whenever kick hits. I will select my kick MIDI as well, so that I can see my kick notes on the same piano roll. Now it's easy to just cut bass notes to create new notes at the position of each kick. This simple technique immediately makes tracks' rhythm more powerful. Next, let's try adding more movement to this bass line. I will once again duplicate this MIDI. And now I select my chord progressions MIDI as well. I like to keep the first note of the beat in the root note, but for these other notes I will try out different notes from our chord. Okay, in here I decided to use the same note, but just one octave higher. Okay, that sounds really nice. I will now make this bass line twice as long. And I will add a little bit of variation on the second repeat. This way we can easily make our track more interesting without adding new chords. Okay, that sounds nice. I will create one more bass pattern for demonstration purposes. Let's use this same MIDI that we just created. Now let's just make these notes shorter. you can hear that creates a little bit funky vibe to the rhythm. Okay, now we have a couple of different bass lines that we can use in the different sections of the track. In the next video, I will start creating some melodies for our track. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe if this kind of content is helpful for you. See you in the next one.